Hi, and welcome to Tea and Tourneys. I'm Lisette Leberger, and today we're going to be talking about round robins. As with any martial activity, there needs to be some pre-work done before your event or your practice. You need to talk with the marshal in charge on how your tournament is going to run. Yes, this is a round robin, so we're not going to have an elimination style tournament, but we still need to discuss and come to an agreement on how your pairings are going to be announced on field, who and how will the reports be conveyed back to the MOL table, and how are you going to make any necessary adjustments if the number of combatants doesn't fit the original plan, which isn't necessarily quite a big deal with the round robins, but if you have any people who come in late or have to drop out, you'll need to know how you're going to handle those as well. Now, round robin tourneys in general, these are tournaments where everybody who is on the list is going to have the opportunity to face every other participant in their pool or their list field. Some of the reasons that we use them is that our fighters end up having several bouts, so there's lots of fighting. Typically, the round robins are used as the first part of a larger tournament. So if you have a lot of fighters, a round robin is a good way to use a lot of fighting to narrow it down to a specific number. Say 4 round robin tournaments, you take the top 2. Now you have the top 8 from the tournament day, and they go to a single elimination final. Now there are 3 different ways that you can run a round robin tournament. The first one is using the automatic round robin generator that's available on printyourbrackets.com. With that one, you go to that website if you have a wonderful internet connection, and you can type in how many participants you have, and it'll automatically split your list field into each round and each pairing for your list field. If you don't have a good internet connection, or you'd prefer not to rely on an internet source, you can also run round robins on a score sheet, or you can use index cards to run the round robin. I prefer the index cards, but I'm going to show you both of the score sheet and the index cards. Now, a couple of notes about round robins. The number of rounds that will be fought will be the total number of fighters minus 1. So if your list has 10 fighters, you're going to have 9 rounds of fighting. Now, if your tournament is going to have more than 6 to 8 rounds, you might want to consider a different format, or you might want to split the list into smaller pools if possible. You know, if your event space or your practice has enough room to split into 2 separate pools, or 3, or however many you have. Now, if you have an odd number of participants, you may need to add a buy card or a buy slot to even out those numbers. You need to discuss with the marshal ahead of time how that buy fight is going to be handled, whether it's going to be a true buy with no fighting, or if it's going to be a tiring buy so that everybody has the same level of exhaustion moving through it. Now, this is a sample score sheet for a round robin. The participants' names are recorded in the first column, okay? And they're going to face each of the other participants. Now, the outcome is recorded for both fighters in this score sheet. At the end of the tournament, the win, loss, or double K record will be tallied up for the number of points that they have earned. So if we fill in our names here, just as an example, and we've got 6 fighters here. Now, since we only have 6, we don't need to worry about rows and columns for 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. Now, you'll notice that there are black squares in that chart. Okay, that signifies the spot where our fighter would typically face themselves, which obviously cannot happen. So that's why that square is blocked out. So let's look at our first round with this. So our first round, let's just say that Velma and Daphne, so 1 and 2, Fred and Shaggy, 3 and 4, and Scooby and Scrappy, 5 and 6, are the bouts that are going to go out for round 1. Let's say that Velma, Fred, and Scrappy are all victorious. So a W is going to be recorded in Velma's row in the column for Daphne, which is fighter number 2. Okay, so we have a W in that spot. Now, for Daphne, we're going to record an L for the loss as she fought Velma. So we're going to put an L in that spot across from Daphne's name under column 1. Now, the same is going to be done for Fred, who won against Shaggy, fighter number 4. And likewise, Shaggy gets a loss in column 3 because Fred is number 3. And then Scooby takes the loss and Scrappy takes the win. Now, round 1 is complete. Now, if we move on, round 2 can be sent out. We have Velma versus Fred, Daphne versus Scooby, and Shaggy versus Scrappy. This time, Velma, Daphne, and Shaggy are going to win. The wins and losses are recorded just as before. Velma has a W, Fred gets a loss, Daphne gets a win, Scooby gets a loss, Shaggy gets a win, and Scrappy gets a loss. Okay, so you can see how this would help keep track of who they have already faced and what their win-loss record is. Now, whenever all of the rounds are done, you would simply tally up the number of wins and losses and record it in the last few columns. And then you can determine the number of points and who won the round robin. To make sure that you get all the fights in, there's a list of pairings that can be used. That's typically at the bottom of this score sheet. Now, each pairing is sent to the field. It's crossed off the list from this list of bouts. Okay, now these are not necessarily in order, and they do not reflect any buys that might be added to even out the fields. So for our example, we had 6 fighters, so I'm going to come over to this column that has 6 fighters and 15 bouts. We already had 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, and 5 versus 6. So I've crossed those out. The second round was 1 versus 3, 2 versus 5, and 3 versus 6. So you can see how those can be crossed off and keep track of who still needs to fight who. And that way you can keep the tournament rolling pretty easily without getting caught up on figuring out the next round of fights. Now, round robins on cards. If you don't have the score sheet available, if you do not have the internet connection to use the generator, then you can run cards on, or run the round robin on indexed cards. If you're running a round robin with multiple pools on index cards, a dedicated MOL should be assigned to each pool of a round robin to avoid any reporting confusion. Okay, so for your pool of fighters, you'll need to create a card for each one of your fighters and assign them a fighter number in the upper corner. Now, you'll need to leave space to record the round, the opponent fighting number, and the win-loss record for each round, and a space for the final tally whenever it's all done. Now, whoever is fighter number 1, you need to put some sort of distinguishing mark on the card. It means nothing in terms of the fighting or the tournament, but it'll help you as the MOL establish the next rounds of pairings and keep the cards a little straighter. Now, you're going to arrange the cards in 2 columns in front of you, with the marked card, the number 1, in the upper left. So let's look at how this is going to appear on your table. Okay, so round robins on cards. We have 6 fighters here. I've marked the first, or the first fighter with a heart up in the corner. Doesn't really matter what mark you use. You could use a sticker, you could use a stamp, you could just put an X. Doesn't really matter. The rest of the fighters I've laid out in this arrangement. We have 2 columns and 3 pairings. Okay. Now, the numbers don't really matter. I just did this to make it simpler for me. So whenever you're going to send this out, you're going to pair the number 1 with number 6, 2 and 5, 3 and 4. You're going to send these out to the list field. Okay, when they come back, you're going to set this up exactly as it looks for round 1. You're going to record your wins and losses, and then we're going to get ready to set up round 2. Now, to rotate these cards, you're going to move the cards in a circular fashion, except for the marked card. Okay, I always move mine counterclockwise. The same effect and the same results will happen if you move them clockwise, as long as you are consistent in one direction or another. So for my version, I'm going to keep the heart card in the same spot, and I'm going to move all of the other cards 1 spot counterclockwise. Okay, so number 6 is going to move down and to the other column. 2 and 3 are going to move down 1 spot. 3 is going to move over. And then 4 and 5 are all going to move up. So from round 1, once we move these, this is what round 2 is going to look like. Okay, this is our round 2 pairings. So you're going to record who they're fighting, and you're going to send these cards out to the list. So number 1 is going to face number 5, 6 and 4, and 2 and 3. And they're going to go out, fight. The winners are determined. The cards come back. Set them up exactly like this round 2. Record your wins and losses. And then to prepare for round 3, we're going to rotate them again. Again, keep the number 1 card in the same spot and move everything 1 position counterclockwise. Okay, so in this case, 5 is going to move to the other column and down a spot. 6 is going to move down, 2 moves across, 3 and 4 move up. And you're going to continue doing this whenever the cards go out. This is round 3 pairings. Round 3 comes back, set it up exactly like this, record your wins and losses, and then rotate the cards to get ready for round 4. And we have round 4 here. It's rotated the same direction, counterclockwise. Do the same thing for round 4, and then your final round is round 5. Again, 1 more rotation. Now, because we have 6 fighters, there's only 5 rounds for this round robin. Okay, so we know that when we get to this round 5 pairings, everyone has faced everyone else in the field. Okay, so you send these out. Again, the win losses come back. You record them, and then at this point you can tally up your total wins and total losses and determine who has been victorious for the tournament for the day. Okay. And that's how you do a round robin. Again, you can use the automatic generator that is available on the MOL page. You can use a score sheet, which should be available on the MOL page as well as after this video is done as a PDF. And then you can always use it as an index card. If you're going to use the index card, set it up and run a practice on your own first, just so that you're used to handling the cards and rotating them before you actually do it at a practice or an event. It's an easy way to do it without relying on extra materials, because most MOLs I know have index cards with them. So again, if you have any questions or concerns, or you're not sure about something that I included in the video, please contact me. Both of my email addresses are here on this slide. And other than that, say hi whenever I see you at an event. Have a good day.